In the way that fines work today, we have a difficult problem, and it's a problem about how the deterrent factor of these fines actually work and how it works unfairly between groups. Okay? Today, it works disproportionately against poor people and people with less wealth who get a punishment they do not deserve and not the consequence that we want out of a fine, as opposed to people who do have wealth, people who are privileged, people who can afford to do whatever they want as long as they can just take the risk, because for them it's not even a dent in the wealth that they make. Now let's talk about what kind of offences we're talking about, and then I'm going to introduce my points. Okay, so we're talking about like minor offences, not against another individuals. We're not talking, of course, about violent crimes. We're not talking. We're talking about things that actually get fined by law. We're talking about things like parking tickets, decriminalized drugs like marijuana in Israel, where when you now just get a fine, and we're talking about speeding tickets. We're talking about those kinds of fines, which are important offences to deter people against doing, but we want to do it in a fair way across the population. Okay, so yes.
How will an officer know my credit?
The officer, you can get a fine, and they can use their system that documents your income. They can connect it with the IRS. I don't care. This is not what the motion is about. This is not what the motion is about. Let's assume we have advanced enough technology to monitor people and their income and their income. Okay. So I'm going to have 2 points. The first is how it's going to deter rich people from doing those offences which they now can do, freely, while the poor people are already deterred more than enough. So those are actually the kinds of offences that they do less. And the second point is going to be about why the situation today, where we give people fines that are disproportionate to their income, to their wealth, hurts poor people in a way that begets more violent crimes, and in a way that begets more suffering than they actually need to be deterred, and in a way that is unfair across the population. Okay, so when I'm rich, or when I have a lot of wealth, when I make much more money than the average person, I can take many more risks than a person who isn't. Now, what we are proposing is to make this proportionate to their income and wealth in a way that hurts everyone, but in a way, because right now it's targeted at an average. It's targeted at a certain average, and no one actually hits that average. So for some people, a fine is not so bad. For some people, a fine could be the worst. Could mean that they could not finish their month, cannot pay their rent, cannot have basic necessity. And rich people can afford to take that risk. They can get away, and they don't give a shit about which laws they need to follow, because if I want to get to a party quicker, if I want to do something, I'm just going to drive way over this. I'm going to drive over the speed limit, and I'm going. And worst case scenario, 1 out of 10 times, yeah, I'm going to get arrested and arrested. I mean, I'm going to get a fine, and then. Okay, I'll pay that fine. It doesn't even make a dent. Okay, and that's unfair, and that's what we need fixing. And secondly, because we're going to make it proportionate, if you have millions of dollars and you're not going to get a $100,000 fine or $50,000 fine, then you're definitely going to feel that in your wallet. You're definitely going to think twice before you commit those offences punishable by a fine, and in the end it's actually even more revenue for the government who can then use it. It's more revenue that they get from those people, which is a lot more than they would gain by one collective fine from everyone, because the differences are so big between what rich people make and what other people pay. Before I get to my second point, yes.
There are some rich people and there are some poor people who think that the medieval, the mid people are
No. The average, the distribution of wealth is not equal in any way, right? You have like it's not like a Gauss thing that goes on there. It's like not that most people are not really like in the middle. It doesn't like there are a lot of poor people. Like just in Israel, like 1 out of 3 kids doesn't, or out of 5 kids doesn't have enough. Doesn't have enough food on the table. People are the more people join the poor and the rich, and those are the people who are really hurt the most by this, because the rich pull the average so high above, and when the target fine is aimed at some average, it actually hurts the poor people a lot, and the average still doesn't even make a dent in the rich people's incomes. Okay, so let's get to the point of why poor people are going to suffer deeply because of this. Okay, so these people are already in a tough spot. Like we're talking about someone who could have committed an offense because she's a hard-working mother in a hurry to get to work because she fears termination. We're talking about maybe someone of a minority group who has a lot of social pressure because of tough neighborhoods they live in to, I don't know, you could use or consume drugs or consume alcohol and things like that. And when those people are going to get a fine, if it's a fine that like says 1,000 shekels, and it's like half or a third of what they make in a month, this means horrendous consequences. This means they don't have the available resources later to actually acquire necessities like food, like medicine, like paying the rent. This is not the consequence that people who get a fine should have even by the rationale of the legal system as it is today. It's not what we want to get. What we want is for people to feel it. They need to feel it in their wallet. It needs to be some amount that it's going to take something away from them, but not in a way that threatens the necessities of what they actually need. So, to sum up, if we do this, rich people are going to commit less offenses because they're going to feel it. And poor people are not going to have to resort to more extreme measures to get those things, measures which are more violent, which my partner will elaborate on. Thank you.